I'm going to press the record.
Yes. It's recording.
Is it recording?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Lovely. Hello.
Hello.
Team. Hello, pet parents. This is Viviane Chen. I am so excited to be talking to her today because this has been a long-awaited podcast, especially with the amazing topic that I feel that is really going to touch us in so many different varieties of ways. And the topic today, I do have my notes over here, so if you happen to see me just to look this way, that's what that is. And the topic's going to be grounding and allowing voluntary with rescues. And there's also going to be more maybe the foundation of what we're all going to be sharing, what Viviane's going to be expressing about this. And then there's going to be extensive points to where we can go a little bit deeper. And so, yeah, I just want to go ahead and leave it at that. But welcome, Viviane. Viviane, thank you so much for being on the Karma Dog podcast with Get Down With Skyler.
Thank you, Skyler. And thank you for having me. And I hope I will also need to refer to my notes every now and then. We're not polished presenters here. But how would you like me to begin about grounding? So shall I say, I'd like to say that the most fundamental way to understand grounding is being comfortable. And this is useful in every aspect of our lives. But it's in dog training, it's especially useful. Okay. And a funny story, when I first, some spiritual teacher I went to, and it was in the age when people thought of grounding as envisioning a tree and yourself as a tree and you send your roots into the earth. Well, it took me many, many years to figure out that I never felt grounded that way, because for me, grounding is feeling comfortable, and I was not a comfortable person with myself. Being comfortable, you're not only comfortable with who you are, or just reminding ourselves in this moment to just relax. It's also being comfortable with the community, and that means in today's terms, I'd like to give the term create a love mantra for yourself. So that when you think about the situation you're in and just opening yourself up to be connected to everything, that really helps. And it helps to watch a small video of porpoises swimming. It always makes us smile, and we start to feel very relaxed. And of course, you have to be connected with Earth. Or if not Earth, the context, the room, the space. How is it feeling? How are we feeling in it? How does this sound to you, Diamond?
Very resonating, for sure. When you talk about the roots and the earth, that reminds me of what I also share with pet parents is the recharging. Like whenever we put our feet on the ground, I believe it's like, the ground is the positive ions, our body's the negative ions, or vice versa, but it's pretty much like a battery recharging just for 15 minutes and our feet on the ground. That's what helps me to become grounded. Yeah. But I think what you just shared there, a lot of people relate with. And I'm kind of curious, wanting to go back to the love mantra. Can you give us a couple examples of what someone can really say daily to themselves for that love mantra to get them into that space of presence?
I will share with you the Thai traditional one I learned from my teacher. And it's not traditional, it's just to my teacher. The sound of aw, air. A-U or A-W-E-H, or air. That's supposedly the little girl's cry. Or ah. That's the little boy's cry. And I'm Buddhist, so we say metta Buddha, okay? Metta is loving kindness, and Buddha is, you can say, calm and concentration and being awake, aware. So a more everyday version is if it makes you to feel good when you think of your family members or you have a new baby, then just think of that. Some people don't have good relations with their family, so they can't, that doesn't work. But most of us here love dogs. And if I think of a training session or a particular pup, it always brings a smile and relaxes me and opens me up, and that works. Does that work for you?
Yeah, yeah. You remind me of, have you ever seen the episode where Cesar Millan, he's helping one of these clients, and he goes, all right, you're like pretty stiff right now. I can see you're a little bit stressful. Think about, what makes you happy. And he brings up food like mangoes.
Right. Some people think about or rice pudding and they just smile because they had a great rice pudding with mom, right?
Yeah. And so you're so right, like right on top of that when it comes to like, it doesn't, everyone's love of something is going to be different. And to have that variety to where there's no such like set way, it's just whatever way that works for you.
Right. And whatever makes us feel beautiful and feel confident and feel we're ready and just open, you know.
Yeah.
So did I cover everything on that? A deeper level of grounding is being confident in your intentions. So I call it grounding in your intentions. So most of us are really, really good people, but we don't give ourselves the credit for it. And so it's just taking a deep breath, taking a step back and realizing, let's say before you go and teach a dog, that your intention there is just to help. And whatever the situation is. So most of us walk out of our doors with some good intentions, but we haven't necessarily taken a moment to reaffirm, hey, I'm just a good person trying to be a positive influence in my world.
Yes. And I just want to share this real quick as well too. So with, us as karma teachers and pet parents, you guys tuning in, this is a really important modality, like speaking of grounding of ourselves, because, our dogs reflect our energy point. So it really starts with us as the leader or the guidance, right? Because I definitely like to use neutral-based words because, we can all associate with leadership or, some people say dominance and things like that. But really what we're wanting to be is true to ourselves, and we're our pups guides. Like we're guiding them to know how to stay balanced in our environment, and it starts with us. So we have to be more aware of like our thoughts, even, right? Our thoughts, our emotions, our physical groundings, because emotions and mental, like those are all energetic projections. And I feel like we'll get a little bit more into this with Viviane as well too. So just to leave you guys as a clear point at that is, it is really important for us to all be very grounded in our environment, so our pups learn how to stay grounded within that. And also we're better communicating with them, not verbally, but also energetically, which is their first main communication system. So yes, Viviane, if you can please continue about how important it is for us to ground ourselves.
And you bring up a good point. By the time most families start to ask for a trainer, I would say more than half of them, if not 3/4 of them, are in some minor state of panic because they're not getting the behavior they would like from their dog, and they have a mindset which is very normal. Oh, I've done something wrong. Why is this happening, right? And that's ungrounding. That's us feeling panicky and anxious. And so it's like a new parent. You just say, take a deep breath, relax, and it's a problem that can be solved, right? So just before we go on, I want to say what is, to help us understand what is grounded, what is not grounded. Okay.
Yes,
So
and excuse me, guys. The boys are about to get into the jacuzzi here, so that's why I'm changing a quick scenery.
that's all right. We'll give you a moment.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is not grounded? What is not grounded is when we're in our head, we got a list of to-dos, or we're thinking about yesterday. So grounded is definitely being present.
Yes.
Where we're open and we're available. And so even as we're watching Skyler adjusting herself, we can just be very patient in our own minds and giving her time to settle in. So yes, patience is another very big aspect of grounding. So definitely being present and not being wandering. There is no dog who will let you, every dog will let you know very, very quickly when you're not grounded.
Yes, and I recognize that with my husky, Shia. She's, you know, as you guys, the huskies are very active breeds, and I can tell whenever I'm speaking too fast, or if internally I have so much going on, there's too much overstimulation, that she'll start projecting that behavior inside me. So she lets me know, okay, I need to take a breath. I need to calm down. I not need to multitask with like a bunch of things all at once. So I definitely resonate with that point that our dogs help us so much to learn how to be more grounded.
People, when they first meet a dog that says, that makes them say, I want that dog, have some kind of grounding connection with it, they bring it home, and in the busyness of their day, we will forget. And then the pet parents I have who are having trouble with their dogs quite often tell me, oh, I see, when you're working with the dog, you're right there with them. When I'm walking my dog, I'm sort of thinking about work, I'm thinking about 1,000 other things. And who's going to let you know first thing that you're not with them is your pup. Right?
Yes. Yes.
So that's a very good one. And I'd like to move from that right into,
balance.
Pardon?
I was going to ask, like, when you brought up walking, the balance and posture with things.
Oh, yes. And so a dog knows you're grounded when you are standing kind of never stiff, relaxed way, kind of tall and kind of erect, but not in any way overly stern or just confident, just confidently standing up. And you're absolutely right. Why is being relaxed and confident so important? It's because dogs are pack animals. They're not looking for a dominant. They're not looking for someone to bully them, but they are looking for leadership, especially if they are dependent on you for their food, for their bed, for their pee time and poop time. They already are naturally oriented to look towards you. And someone who's awake, very present, and alert and open and turned towards their dog and listening, or listening to the environment for something that may be coming up, like a big noise, a car rushing through, that's a person a dog can trust. Have you found that so?
Yes. That's why I'm like soaking in it. Yes, yes, yes.
And so those are the reasons for being as natural, relaxed, and confident as you can possibly be, even if you're not feeling like it. Try to get yourself to that place because it will help you.
And that's a great point that you bring that up, because I feel like so much of us wait until we feel good to be in that moment. So you're also sharing that be in that moment, even if you don't feel that way, because, and from what I'm picking up is the practice of it, right? Because you're getting into the practice of feeling that way, even if you don't feel good.
We're going to get to the point about, I'd love to talk about some rescues and their personalities, and then to talk about how important voluntary is.
Yes.
So even as you were saying, even when you're not feeling like it, I'm not asking you to force yourself. I'm asking you to find a way to nudge yourself, to voluntarily get yourself over to that confident, relaxed place.
Mm-hmm.
And to put, if it helps at all, I have a spiritual teacher who won't teach any kind of spiritual teaching until he notices everyone in the room is relaxed. And he will get people to relax by cracking jokes or pulling out things that are amusing so that people can take their minds off their tension. So whether we are pet parents or teachers, if we have a cue we can give ourselves. You remember the laughing fish people had on the wall that says, what is the song that the fish sings? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, not at the moment.
Something about it's a good day or whatever. But so something that's a little comical that helps us laugh and relax always is helpful, whatever it is. I will think of that fish.
Okay. I'm quite curious.
I'm having a senior moment.
Walls, right?
Huh?
Maybe we've seen it like on our school walls.
Yes, you know, it flexes out and sings a song. Huh, I'm surprised you haven't never, I'll have to think of what it is, okay? So about rescues. Anyone who is a pet parent to a rescue, who sees a rescue and the rescue is behaving a certain way that's very endearing at the animal shelter, may bring it home and then suddenly say, I've got a different dog. Well, that could be good news because the dog may be feeling safer to express all its angst, all its anxieties. So most rescues I've met pace a lot. They can't sit, they can't lie down, and they'll bark, and they're edgy, and they're very space conscious, and they're very sound conscious. What haven't I mentioned that, are you thinking of anything, Skyler?
I am, yeah. Previous points, yes, those are the cases that I've worked with, mainly separation anxiety that do present that as well.
They cringe, they'll stall if you're trying to walk them. You know, they won't go anywhere. In other words, a little bit incorrigible, okay? And most people will think, what's wrong? What's wrong with the dog, or what's wrong with me? And in our time-scheduled world, we may not have a lot of patience to deal with that. And yet at that particular moment is exactly when we have to pull out the word patience from our pocket and take a look at it and remind ourselves. The minute we relax that time schedule that says, I gotta be somewhere, and it's not going anywhere, it's not pooping, it's not peeing, then that's where the problems are. But if we actually take a deep breath, relax, it'll probably happen.
Yes. And that's such a great point that you bring up, because I feel like sometimes we just continuously push it off to the side, like, okay, I'll get to it, you know, whenever at this time, I just have so much more going on right now. And then whenever that time comes, we say the same thing. And so I think that's a beautiful sentiment of just whenever we're working with our pups to be in the moment right then and there, because that's all that matters. And that's what truly makes a difference, because those things that we're thinking about on the walks or, you know, at home, like, they're always going to be there. But the the patience game, or the growth game, is to be in that patience moment, to build it up at that point, and just recognize, yes, I may have tasks to do later, but I'm going to release and let that go so I can be in this moment for both of the pups and your benefits, right?
Right.
So I think that's such a very great point to bring that up, and that kind of brings me into. So I want to make sure, because I see what you're doing here. You're bringing together and bridging the grounding yourself and the rescues into this example as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, is there any more of what you feel might be helpful, of the information of, what you're sharing with pups presenting the pacing, and that can't lay down, that don't want to lay down and sit, they just have too much overstimulation, before I go in and ask you this next question?
So we're kind of approaching this problem from many angles, and it's not going to be linear, right? Okay. So two thoughts occur to me that I better make sure we cover. And one is the language of dogs that we as people have to learn. And the other that was preceded this was about the voluntary, that we as positive reinforcement dog trainers, we can ground a lot. And as pet parents who want to adopt this technique, if you just take the moment to ground in the intention, your good intentions, to never have to hit or swat or say no to your dog, that you really, really believe that just saying yes, just saying, bringing up rewards and treats, and give me 1 second. I almost didn't plug in my computer. I'm having a hello moment. That number one, we can really take tremendous confidence from people who've tried positive reinforcement training, that it's very effective. And then your commitment to it, you can take confidence that you are going a good way. And then in that technique, we allow the dog to voluntarily get out of their cringing, their pacing, all the ways they're trying to tell us. And of course, in this training, we have positive association, offering things to help them change their understanding of what used to make them tense, and helps them to be confident and relaxed with it. Okay.
Yes, you brought up a great point, to where whenever pet parents bring home their pups and they're a completely different dog, that it's because they're open to show that side of vulnerability of them, right? Of whichever type of stress response that they're showing. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Of how why does it make a difference that they're more comfortable with them showing it, and how can they really redirect it to help them in the process of their pup of letting go that particular unhealthy behavior?
We've all seen a child being bullied, and the child will cower, it won't fight back, it'll be silent, it'll look down, and then you bring that child home, and it's maybe more comfortable in the family, and then the child will express the anger. So a shelter place, dogs do understand this is a place where nothing is fixed, okay? And they don't know where they're going. They're in this compartment. And so all of their anxieties, and no one's particularly necessarily paying attention to them. And if they are, they're not there every day. There's no consistency in a day. And so those will all tend to shove their real feelings down below. At home, and they're getting treats, and they're getting lots of love, and suddenly they feel confident to just say, hey, I'm not feeling great, to actually say, I'm not feeling great. And we as adults, we go through the same thing. We go into a tense work environment, we will hunker down. If we come home, we'll let our spouse hear everything, right? And then they'll wonder why, where did this come from, right? But
Right. Oh, we've all had those moments, yes.
So you were and how to help a dog through that? Well, definitely letting them volunteer, but to give it up. So if a dog is pacing a lot, you just let it pace. If you want to teach it something, like usually we try to teach a dog to sit. Well, a pacing dog may not want to sit, but it gets tired enough. It might want to lie down for you, especially if you hold something down with your foot, or that he's very interested in, or she is very interested in, like a bone that's under your foot, and he's just gnawing at it. Pretty soon he'll get relaxed and put his butt down, and he's lying down. And as trainers or parents, we're there to give them the reinforcement to say, yes, that's a good dog. Great. Have a treat.
Yes, and they're relieving and letting all that energy whenever they're pacing. And then when they do that lay down, like you said, they're relaxing. And then they can have a redirection tool as a bone or, toy, whatever it is, to also help them to redirect from whatever their anxious mind was just at into more of something more suitable that's soothing, a stress release for them. Kind of like us, holding those squinchy balls and like getting stress relief out like that.
So a fundamental of dog training is exercise your dog somewhat before. You don't want a sleepy dog who's tired there and no muscles to be in training, but you don't want a tense nervous dog. So give it a little bit of exercise. So when a dog paces, it's simply exercising itself, kind of working out the tension. Then you give it something it can get attracted to. Now you have something to work on. It's just patience and waiting for it to get tired enough, like in a digging position, to get that bone out, and finally it'll put the behind down.
Yeah,
right?
That beautiful reward system.
Right, yeah. So that's just a synopsis of what all the other scenarios will work out to. That positive reinforcement uses cues that to have a dog sit, you raise it, the head goes up, the butt goes down, there you go. So
right.
So it goes on from there.
Yes, and that brings me to my next question. I love how you beautifully said, open your awareness and listen with your heart. And then you have more of activate this with one breath, connect with what is before you, observe, check it out. Your stance is relaxed and present. You are not reactive. Can you explain these points of how it's so important for us to slow into the moment of calmness, and then also how it bridges to our pups training as well too, along with our daily rituals, whether it's just us, our pups, or in together as a unit?
So this goes a little bit more into the mindfulness, or some people call it meditation training, that quite a few people actually have found useful in their lives. But I will call this, what would you call it? It's meditation in active daily life, okay? So you are riding in a train, even if you're driving, of course you don't want to lose your consciousness of your path, but you can take a few deep breaths, you can relax by being aware of your breathing, but also by taking a moment to say, hey, is my mind just on the next phone call, the next thing I have to prepare, or have I checked my context? Am I walking into something that's actually volatile? Or am I walking into a situation where people are afraid to meet strangers? This is a good analogy for dogs. Dogs may be afraid to meet us, and we'll get back to that about the body language. But just to finish off, rounding off, it's again connecting with your community, and the community can be space, it can be earth, it can be people, it can be dogs, it could be trees, whatever is around you, being more environmentally aware. Does that answer your question or not enough?
No, perfectly. because I love how all of this is just relaying. It all goes back into the present moment. No matter, just like what you shared earlier, and it's in different modalities and different varieties and different experiences, but it's all coming to that one foundation. So that answered it greatly.
In another vein, people love cooking, to relax, to cook, because it's a very one moment kind of a thing. You get your peppers, you get whatever, you chop them up, and then you have to put them together in some way. And then whether you're stir frying or baking or whatever, right? It's that one little moment of focus.
And I get so therapeutic whenever I cook, or when cleaning too. Like, that's so right. It's because we're focusing on that present moment of what it's like just to be present with one thing, one task.
And to show you what's not focused, if you're trying to cooking and timing is important, and someone is talking to you on the side, and you can't focus, then pretty soon you're saying, oh, this isn't so enjoyable anymore. Have you ever had that happen?
That's how, yes. And I just shared that with a friend the other day too. Like, I was cleaning the dishes, and I'm like, yeah, this is so therapeutic. And they were just so excited to share about their day and their experiences. And I tried to talk whenever they're talking as I'm washing dishes, but I'm like, okay, no, I have to share this with them. Hey, look, I can't do that. I can't multitask. So what I'm just gonna do is just to listen as I'm doing the dishes. And that's just been a great balance and harmony for that. So that's a beautiful point that you brought up of how you don't have to do everything at once. Like, keep with your therapeutic present moment.
I came up in the career path where the book about excellence was really popular, and everyone was multitasking. It's nonsense. You really only do one task well, but you can be aware. It doesn't mean, and this is what, as I'm training a dog, as I'm paying attention to a dog, I'm also aware, oh, are the cars bothering him? Is the wind causing something to blow, So we don't mean you just have your eyeglasses down, focus down on what's in front of you. You do have an open awareness, but you really try to be attentive to what you're trying to be attentive to.
Yes.
So not being in hurry for results gives us the opportunity to connect. So here we get to the big topic of communications.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I love how you bring that point for us to, it's not about perfectionism. It's not about getting those results right here and now, because it's a journey. Our dogs training, our lives as well, it's a journey. It's a never-ending process. We're always evolving. Our pups are always evolving. And so that's a beautiful point to where you shared, Viviane, about living in the moment and allowing yourself to know, to give yourself those kudos, those brownie points, those congratulations, that whenever you do accomplish something in that moment, embrace it, and then continue along that path. And know that as you're continuing on that path, it's always going to be accomplished moments. It's never going to be that end goal, like, oh, everything's complete, I don't have to do anything else anymore.
Right. And I was going to say, most puppies are in the moment. Real puppies that haven't had any suffering or kind of been weirded out are really in the moment. Okay. However, a rescue or a dog that has had problems in its past is just like a human being who's anxious. It's wondering if what's in the past is going to occur. Its habits and patterns are related to past rather than what love you're showing it right now. So if you've got an anxious pup and we can't handle our own anxiety and learn to be a little more present when we're with them, then they have no chance of getting over it.
Right. Yes, because I always think back to, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this too, Vivian, of, dogs don't live in the past or future, they live in the present. And I do get questions, which I'm sure you have, of, well, my dog always remembers this particular scenario. Like, I don't know if a pup is, like, whenever they're out on a walk and there's dogs that are barking, and every time they pass by this specific dog, their pup is always reactive to it. So, they may ask the questions, well, every time they pass by, it's like they remember. So wouldn't that be like them going into the past? And that's such an interesting question, right, Vivian? Because, I mean, in our psychology, yes, that would be like going back to the past. But in their psychology, it's the present moment every single time. They don't know, like, oh, I walked past this dog at 5 a.m. this morning, and now I'm going to walk past them at 5 p.m. It's different, because as they're walking by them, one, I feel like before they even approach them physically, because we're in this 3D physical reality, we feel like we have to see them, but they feel them first because of that energy connection. So they can be like, our pups can be 60 feet back and feel like anticipating, oh, I remember this familiar energy that I'm about to pass by. And then that's when the reactive behavior comes, especially when they see the pup physically in that moment. Then that's when that occurs. So what are your thoughts about that?
So I really do think that pups that, like, in their fear stages, or when they've had a bad experiences, they are present, but they are impacted. So contextually, I remember one owner who told me when she was going to care for an Akita from a friend, she tried to shove him in the door to get a bath. And this was quite a prince of an Akita, and he's never been shoved in the door. And so from then on, she couldn't ever get him to go through that door. So I was brought in, we threw treats, got him past, but it was interesting. We then said, well, let's change the doorway we bring the dog through. Let's go through another passageway in the house. And yes, that made things easier, okay? So I do think that dog, because of a traumatic experience, is not fully as in the present as he is naturally, a physical dog is naturally oriented to be. Dogs are very oriented to be present. But when there's been trauma, they, or they've had passed a dog that they didn't have a good experience, or they passed a dog they had a great experience, then they're lunging forward for the future.
Right. And by them being contextual learners.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to now go to the communication aspects, okay? People are so word oriented, and that I don't think in our original farming, rural, hunting, agrarian selves, we were so word oriented. But and we lost so much touch with our body and feeling. But dogs are all about body language, and
yes.
So most new parents, if they've never had dogs, aren't aware that if their nice, natural, tall posture is intimidating, then they have to make themselves smaller by turning sideways, or by bending down and turning sideways and making themselves less imposing. Dogs are reading these languages the whole time they're with us, right?
And you just brought me up to this experience that I had with these two pups who were rescued from a meat market. And they were, I worked with them, I believe, when they were a year old or about a year old, and then again whenever they were a year and a half old. And so they just had very anxious behavior and high reactivity to people coming into their home, and also high reactivity to the pups outside too, like socialization. They had a huge situation with socialization. And so I worked with them with their friends of like how to enter. And so it's great that you bring up about the posture, because that is everything. Whenever, whenever their friends would walk into the door first, we had to set them up for the doorway process, because the pups would always meet the people at the doors first rather than the pet parents, the guide, the leaders meeting them first. So we worked on that of creating this space that you guys as pet parents have to greet them first, and then your friends coming in first, and your pups just stay behind you so they can observe the process of your guys' energetic, your body language connection of what's really being communicated. And then we invited the friends in. And so what also happened, since these friends have met the pups before, they kind of had a like you were saying earlier, like a reactive moment of like the past experiences of what they had with these pups. So that body language, they became tense. And then their energy projection of them remembering, that was projecting to the pups. So now the pups are seeing, oh, these people that just came into my safe environment to where I'm usually comfortable is now tense. And so now I'm going to react tensely. So whenever, sharing that with them, this is actually what's being communicated, because they communicate through the energy, the body language, and they do the vocals, and then they apply your pheromone sense and taste to the experience, the memory that they're creating with you. So this is what we're going to do. And then we just work with relaxing the body, taking that breathing moment, forget about the past, they're completely new. We're going to put some treats in your hand so we can associate a new memory with you. And within, I just got the tingles like from my knees to my brain right here, because it's so exciting whenever you see the shift like that. And within 5 minutes, the friends were like, oh my gosh, these are completely different dogs. They're not barking the way like they used to. They're not as reactive. This pup doesn't have their hackles up like they used to. So it's such a clarifying moment when, like you said, Vivian, of how important our body language is. Just by a scent makes a huge communication connection with our dogs.
You remind me of an example of a recent dog I worked with. And here's another thing. The owner is very tall. Lately, I've had some pup parents who are very tall, and the dogs are very low, So and it's bad for their back to be, So I actually have a funny technique where I use a spatula and put either a little bit of cheese or a little bit of peanut butter and just whip it down there, so they don't have to bend so much, okay?
Oh, how cute are you?
But this example is of a dog's communication of what's not right, and the owner not understanding. He adopted and had this 3-year-old for about 2 months, and he's a good trainer, good parent, working solidly to get his dog comfortable. And the dog is very comfortable walking outside on very good relationships with the owner. But what drives him crazy is when the garage door opens, the dog has a routine. He snaps to the window, woof, 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 right? And then snaps to the door and woof, woof, woof. And so we were working with him at the door to get him calmer, as he's standing there before he starts barking. A treat goes in, keeping him calmer and calmer. But then he'd run to the door. So I realized his language was really, he was protecting his resources, and the door was more traumatizing to him. So I had his owner stand between the door and the dog, and that did it. He was calm. He treat him, and I could turn the garage door on and off, and there was no reaction. And then we worked ourselves back towards the window. And by the time he was at the window right above where the garage door is going up and down, he never barked again once we got the swing of it. So I was telling the dog owner, I said, I don't think there's any way we know what happened to him in the past, but you've done a great job. She looks like a very confident dog otherwise. But I said, this dog has probably been left alone at home longer than it really liked. And it felt solely responsible for protecting everything. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
It
And I
really
feel
does.
like that just made a lot of sense with other pet parents who are watching this.
Yeah. And so it actually doesn't matter that we know why. It helps us to understand, this is probably the past, and then you can validate it in other ways. But
Right.
to know that, okay, between the window and that door, it was the door that he was more anxious about. And it was interesting. We worked from the least anxious at the window. And then once I could see that he was sort of okay at the window, we could go to the door and work backward and that kind of. Now, of course, it isn't you solved it once, you solved it forever. You got a clue, and then you have to keep at it.
Yes, yes, yes. Like, yes, a daily journey.
So that's an example of a dog and how it communicates to us. It's got a problem, right? But how we communicate to it, we have to keep learning by watching their bodies, how much tension they have, looking at their ears, looking at their eyes, And this owner said to me, they play ball on a string. The dog loves ball on a string, and he loves pretending to growl when the owner takes it. But here's where the owner wasn't reading. At the end of the growl started to be a little lip curl, a little lip lift, right? So I said to him, now that is the beginning of something that could turn into a greater warning, where the owner wanted everything to be okay and said, oh, I don't think that's much of anything. But as trainers, we know when it can slip from a friendly little growl into a more serious communication. Right?
Yes.
And so a very important part of communication is that we observe, we understand the context of where they're in. Are they in a room with windows all around where they feel they have to guard 360? Or are we in a room with just one window? And so they feel, okay, there's only one point of unpredictable entryway, the door. We have to be aware of our bodies, where we are in relationship to the dog, and we have to be very aware of space, the space of dogs. And this is a very interesting, most dog owners and trainers know that you don't get into a dog space willy-nilly, casually, without some awareness where the edge is.
Yes, asking permission.
Right, and I remember I read a book once called Hidden Silence, and it was talking about how in different cultures, different ranges of space is comfortable. In the Western culture, it's at least 5 or 6 feet that people are comfortable with each other. In Middle Eastern culture, it's right smack in your face. And so with dogs too, there is this, okay, I'm in his space and he's backing off. He's letting you know, I don't want you so close. And so what does this make you remember or think of about dogs in space? And
I'm just thinking of how it's just so simple. Like guys, like for us, it's really so simple for us to see what our dog's communicating, because they don't attach it to a story. They don't like we do. We create this whole shebang, a novel, a movie, like just a complete journey with it. But theirs, it's just so simple to look at. So I mean, what you just asked there, what does this remind me of? It reminds me of a lot of, cases that I've had that express of what you shared. And I'm just, soaking in it even more, because there's so much that goes into it. It's not just a focusing at how you were given the example, oh, the pup is just barking at the window. Oh, it's because they might see somebody pass by, which that could be true, or another pup, that could be true, or just because they hear this certain noise at this point in time, yes, that could also be true. But then you go into it depth, because if it's just one window and there's multiple windows, they're doing that at every window. Some may be more subtle and some may be more sensitive depending on what's happening at each of those locations, but still has an overstimulation of focus of what's going on, being guarded all the time. And I really feel like, Viviane, you just gave an epiphany for so many pet parents out there, that it's not just one particular thing, it's the awareness of everything in the environment.
Because they are aware of everything. They are still into finding a secure, like the caveman. I like to use the example, a caveman doesn't sit in a cave all by himself and eat his meal with his back to the cave entrance. He will most likely sit looking at it, right? And so this is a fundamental nature in us and in dogs to be aware, to know where the surprise might be coming from, you know. And so I had what we were talking about something. I had one small thought. Was it about space? The edge of space is very important. So we all know, when we're trying to help an anxious dog get over a noise problem, we will withdraw 10 feet away and the dog seems totally natural, comfortable, and then we're walking in a foot and walking in another foot, and then see, oh, when does he start to get reactive? And then we would work from that edge, right? And
yes.
So that's another way of understanding space and our puppies, and how we might not think they are relating to that space and marking, this is a safe distance, this is not a safe distance, right? So.
Right, and I had worked on a case to where, speaking about space, that she was reactive whenever somebody would just get into her space because they wanted to cuddle her and just love on her. But she was there resting. And so when she would sometimes get surprised, and she would just do a warning, kind of just like nip at the air, as a warning sign. And but the pet parent's like, but I give them so much love. I don't understand why she does that to me. It's not that she doesn't think you don't love her. It's more so that, she's just asking for space, and you just kind of surprised her, so she just gave a warning of like, hey, that's something I really don't like. I would like my space, because they don't speak verbally like we do, and they don't, swat hands, like we do. They do it, more so with their mouths or their looks, their facial expressions.
And you covered exactly the point I had forgotten and wanted to come back to. And that is how people greet and show love to their dog. They may not, we say, oh, in human language, give them a hug is great. But for a rescue dog, a hug is too confining, and people love to pat dogs on their head, and that's not a very great way to greet a dog, A rub on the chest or a tickle under the chin might be closer. And then every puppy owner will say to me, how do I stop people from just pouring a ton of love on this dog and freaking my dog out, right?
Right, yes. But it goes back to what you say, recognizing that body language of how they're communicating, so it can just be such a receptive play for both. And that,
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to go into, always giving the respectful space, so letting the dog come to you.
Right, that's voluntary, right? And so just one last thought on the dog that parents say, everyone's loving on my puppy. And it gets it so excited. I can't teach it good manners. And here's grounding again. You should be grounded in the fact that you are a balanced, protective parent. So I tell them, I say, you have to start thinking about a phrase that's engaging, that you would use with people. And you'd say, hi, I'm trying to teach my dog some manners. Would you like to help me? And, just throw him a treat or offer him, or, maybe shake his hand or whatever. But that gives you a window to be grounded in what you would like to have happen in a polite, good-mannered way, and inform the stranger how you would like your pup and how your pup would like to be greeted.
Yes, and before we see, you just reminded me of something too that I feel like would be a great point before we go into this next question, is that and this happened to be the same pup, so whenever the pet parent would have people over, she'd hold her pup. It's a smaller pup too. And people were so excited, wanted to greet the pup, but it was so much energy for that little pup that the pup was just becoming reactive to the people that were also coming in that space. And also with parties and such, we kind of add a little bit more other things that can get our energy in different ways as well too. So that plays a huge part, because our emotions and our mental thoughts, they're not as stable in that moment because it's always fluctuating. So whenever we're interacting with our dogs, especially ones that are highly sensitive, they are going off of that inconsistency of a energetic projection, which again, guys, is us communicating to them. So that inconsistency of energetic communication that we're giving to them, to where they feel like, okay, it's so much overwhelmness that's coming into them, so they don't know how to process the information that's being given them in a smooth moment. So that's why this particular pup was being so reactive, because they were saying there's so much going on, there's so much information.
Right.
As a nit here, there's so much going on, there's so much information, it's overwhelming. So that goes back to what you were saying, Vivian, of being present, being grounded to allow yourself to be present, because when we're present, we're able to see more of what's going on, and then we're able to see more of the body language of how we're communicating with them. And then our energy is not all over the place. It's more so to where it's connecting with them, like, okay, I understand what you're wanting. Like, yes, my intentions is to give you more love or to greet myself to you.
Right.
I'm friendly, and things like that. But I also am aware of seeing the space that you're at, that you're asking for more space. And I wanted to put this in there too, guys, is you can be 60 feet away and still give that love to your pup. We can still do that for our pups, because they feel it from across the way.
You mentioned once to me that their radius of where they're aware is 60 feet out compared to ours.
Yeah, ours is 6 feet.
I want you to add one other thing about also a different way of being grounded is people see pictures of other people and their dogs walking, or see a movie and, oh, such a well-behaved dog, or they fell in love with their dog, but they have anticipation and expectations of what their dog should be like. And that causes a lot of confusion, where being in the moment is, if you've got a new dog, is to sit there with your new package and really connect with what kind of dog you really got. And it takes time to tell that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to be sure to cover two other things. And one is that dogs that are fearful are not able to do things voluntarily. And I want to say that fear is based in a sense of separation. They don't feel connected. People who don't feel connected tend to be afraid. Okay. And that is not a learning whether it's just anxiety level fear or sense of separation, that is not a mental state to learn. All good trainers know to, again, to make your dog happy, and then, you know, the learning comes right along. Okay, so shelter dogs tend to be more fearful, and it's basically a lack of confidence. So everything we do to help them address their sense of confidence, to make them feel like set up for success, they're doing something right. You called their name, and calling their name and giving them a treat and saying yes to affirm it and praising them, I say, is like meeting a person. If someone met you and said, wow, yes, you're a great person, and then they praised you and gave you a rose, now you would feel great. And we don't take that basic to understand that every soul, every being is hungry for that pleasant acknowledgement that says, you're great, right? Okay. So again, positive and not fearful is a good learning environment. So if you find your pup is kind of anxious, this is not the time to try and teach them anything.
Yes, and because nothing can get through.
Nothing can. They're worried about who's out the door, who, you know, or now a certain amount of distraction is good. Right. But you always want to introduce it in bite-sized, manageable, digestible pieces. And that's what helps make a puppy into a mature dog. But if it's really, truly anxious, forget it. Fold in the chair and play a little, you know?
Right. And I want to add on to that is be confident when we redirect, because they can tell when we're anxious of trying to redirect. So thinking like, okay, I wonder if they're going to listen to me if I redirect. So then we go, hi, come here. You know, they can really pick that up. So definitely have that confidence when you want to redirect them.
Exactly. The last topic I have to cover is about transitions. So whether we're making spatial transitions or activity transitions, it's about making change. And so a rescue coming into your home is about transitions. Your dog leaving the house is about transitions. And people who are trying to train their dog, if they would be much more aware of the transition point and become really mindful of the continuity from moment to moment. And dog trainers know it. If my dog is reactive to when I put the leash on and take him out for a walk and he's reactive on the walk, we don't necessarily train them from the walk. We train them from taking out the leash and putting it away, so that the connection that the leash is always a trigger. Oh, I'm going to get to go out, you know, and fun is in the air, so that they learn to say, be a little ho-hum about the leash coming out, right? And it doesn't always mean we get to go out. And then so as they pass through the door, if you haven't learned to exert some sort of communication to the dog that, hey, we go through this door when I say it's okay, all right, but not by yanking him back or slamming the door in his face, but by just blocking him with your body. And then now you've got a dog that's starting to listening to you, that, okay, it can't make 3 steps without taking a peek to see where you at. That dog is more set up to have a more polite walk, a more functional walk than yanking at the leash and tugging you to whatever sniff pile he wants to go to. So continuity is really, really important, of getting into the car, of getting out of the car, of moving through a door of a friend's house, a store. These are all points to take especially great care in, because they mean change. Does that
Yes.
So, and for timid dogs, that change will trigger the fear again, you know. And here's the thing, as we know, a younger puppy, they need to learn every space that you are going to introduce and make into his world. So people think, oh, he's been going to the beach, he should be okay. Uh-oh, he's going to the store or the downtown street and he's not okay. He's acting really timid, you know. It's because it's a totally new context. And so people say, I've done my job. I've socialized my dog. I've got him to meet other dogs. How come he's acting so scared? It's because the context is different.
Yes, yes. And I find that, you know, it's very important to harness that, to understand that, because since dogs are contextual learners, that being in different environments, like, yeah, it's going to be different. It kind of brings me up to the point to where I always bring up this example to help bring in the contextual is, have you ever met a pet parent that has shared with you, oh, my dog does so great, and this is from teachers to pet parents yourselves, you know, has shared with you, oh, my dog does so great in group classes, they listen to the curriculum there, it's amazing, but every time I bring them home, it's a different story. Because they learned the curriculum at that particular location, that they took a snapshot of that image, that picture, that memory. And so that's why, you know, us as teachers, we share with you, go ahead and continue to practice that more into your home, because they're learning in a different, completely contextual environment.
And also, we as parents may go into a class with a trainer who's standing kind of erect and giving good, clear information. And so our information delivery seems to be clearer. When we go home, you know, we got a phone in our ear, a snack on the counter, and suddenly our body language, the dog says, they're not present. Let me get away with this. Let me counter surf.
Those opportunities for sure. And there's so much, like kids, I can't tell you how many countless times parents who are human parents and pet parents, they're like, I did not realize how much a puppy or a dog is so much like raising a child.
It's no different, yeah.
No difference.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember telling one pet parent that if he didn't straighten it out, he's not going to be ready when his kid arrives. Out of great affection for this person, he says, yes, I'm walking my dog thinking about my work. No wonder this beautiful white golden retriever isn't listening. that dog listens perfectly to the wife. So this dog already knows one person's attentiveness, body language is in his book worth paying attention to. Whereas the other one is like a throwaway, right? I can go dig holes, do whatever I want. I don't have to pay attention to this person.
Yes, yes. And sometimes the roles are vice versa. It's just, you're so right on the nail on the head. And that's why I've always heard the saying, which I'm sure most of us have, is always, you know, if you're thinking about having children, get a puppy first.
And then they say, I didn't know it was so much work.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. And, you know, I kind of wanted to touch bases before we wrap this up here. You said this important part, our spirituality is not a head job. And, you know, you mentioned expand breath and relax, open awareness of the body, emotion, and mind. I'm kind of, you know, I want to see more of what you mean about our spirituality is not a head job.
For those who like to go into meditation practice, the thing they will tell you is that meditation doesn't end when you get up from the cushion. So in a high stressed world that we work and live in, many people will go and seek out some kind of course or situation or retreat. and sit there, and then they can just have perfect silence, have perfect, and quiet their mind more and enjoy that perfect moment. And then they get up and they can't do it. So the real test of our spirituality is our action in daily living. It doesn't. It's it's okay to sit on a cushion and think and practice so you can get the ABC down, but to remember that the ABC gets configured into a language that gets used. So the ABCs of spirituality get configured into our daily activity and into application in every second. And so having a dog, if we can take the cue to be mindful with the dog, that it's only trying to let us know when we're kind of out of touch or not communicating clearly, usually, and that once we get that straight, things tend to straighten out.
Yes, I really do truly believe that our dogs are more here to help us to stay more grounded and focused and live in the present moment and live out our inner child, because that's what they do. They don't care about the clothes we wear or the cars we have or where we live, or
they care about your shoelaces.
You said they care about our shoelaces? Oh my gosh, yeah.
But I want to ask you, what do you feel is spirituality today? What is spirituality to you?
Like being yourself. I know that's so like cliche, but like spirituality to me is the present moment of yourself.
Because honoring yourself,
You're not going into, past and future about things. You're not going into judgment. You're really just, you're there. You're allowing yourself to see what just is, and you respond to it by us being present from the heart space inner beings that we are. Because our natural state of being is unconditional love, and our dog's natural state of being is unconditional love. So that's what I see from it.
I had a spiritual teacher, a Canadian, who said one of the most powerful words. He would tell people just to follow your puppy, your inner puppy. Everyone understood what he meant.
Yes.
Kind of a small, helpless puppy looking for love, right?
See this. I mean, it's not sweat, but like that's so beautiful. I'll take that as a mantra, for the day. That is just so beautiful. It's so instinctively true. And I also wanted to share here, with you, everyone here watching this, us as dog trainers, we're just your guides. We're here to empower the foundations that you've already really wanting to establish. The fact that you come to, us as by our techniques being 100% positive reinforcement shows that you've already created some form of that groundwork in your environment, and you're just looking for more guidance, more tools, more ways to empower yourself of how to lead a pup in this particular setting that you have welcomed them in. So that's what I really want to share and just get that out, is that, we're here to help you grow. And then the rest of your journey is totally up to you. You applying these tools with your daily lives. And I like to say, because you live with them, we're just here momentarily.
I would like to add a quirk to that. The rest of it depends on your pup, what it wants to teach you.
Mom and Dad, we need to learn this. I love it. Well, Viviane, thank you so much. This was such a great, exciting experience to have with you, especially talking about dog training in this particular way. I feel like we're you know, us as human beings in general, we're seeing more things of how it's not just like, tell your dog to do this and they will do this. It's so much more.
Exactly.
We can apply to everything that, whatever. We're also training with our pups. It's also training us as individuals and how to interact in our daily lifespan.
If we take care of the bonding and the communication, we can teach them anything.
Yes. Yes.
Thank
Viviane,
you.
thank you
It's a
so
good
much.
talk.
Amazing talk. And more to come, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. There will be more podcasts coming your way, so stay tuned for an update. And thank you so much for tuning in with Karma Dogs Training Podcast. Get Down with Skyler. Have a great day.
Thank you, Skyler and Karma Dog Training. Okay, do we...
Yeah, we stop.